Hey guys, welcome back to Tony Means. Today we're going to be doing my NFL Week 12 score predictions. And sorry if I'm a bit curt on this one. I literally just sat here and recorded a 20-minute long video. Well, at least I thought I was. Turned out I wasn't recording at all. So now I'm a bit peeved. But yeah, we're going to get into this things. Go ahead and get into this thing. So we're going to start off with Thanksgiving games, Lions versus Texans. This might actually come out after this game or whatever. But just I forgot to go ahead and get my prediction out there. So the Lions, the Texans, both of these teams kind of on the same level, in my opinion. The Lions went out there last week and played horribly against the Panthers, a 20-0 shutout. They got completely demolished. Meanwhile, the Texans went up against the Patriots and got a nice win. The Patriots, their kind of game plan was pretty bad. Their play calling was bad. One of the worst games we've seen Bill Belichick coach in a while. The Texans, I definitely think that their offense kind of showed up better in that game, and their defense. The Texans on both sides of the ball look pretty well. The Lions look pretty bad, so I'm going to have to hand this one to the Texans, a 24-16 win. And now let's move on to Cowboys versus Washington. We saw last week Washington play pretty well, especially in the second half defensively, completely just destroyed the Bengals. I think they had like 4 or 5 sacks in that second half. Their offense also stepped it up. Washington has definitely looked like a really good team. Sorry, I had to put in my mic there. So sorry if the audio was bad there for a second, but the Washington football team, we saw last time these two teams met, Washington beat them 25-3. I think the Cowboys have improved since then, so they can keep it close, but I definitely still think Washington will get the win here, 21-17, and it'll be on top of the NFC East, at least for now. Next up, we have Bills versus Chargers. This will be a pretty good one because you have a 7-3 team going up against a 3-7 team that are kind of on the same level. Well, not really. The Bills, their defense has played lights out. Their offense has showed up, especially in these past couple of weeks. You look at the Chargers. They managed to get a nice win against the Jets last week, but didn't look pretty. So I'm gonna have to hand this one to the Bills. The Chargers, they just cannot finish games. Joe Herbert is kind of carrying this Chargers team right now. When the Bills, they're really good on both sides of the ball, and I think they'll get the nice win here. I think they kind of get control of the AFC East. Next up, Colts versus Titans. These two teams met up a few weeks back, and it was a blowout in the Colts' favor, at least in the second half. It was a 34-17 nice win by the Colts. I definitely think it'll kind of be the other way around. Not necessarily a blowout, but I think it'll be a very, very close game. I think that I just can't see I definitely can't see the Colts sweeping the Titans, but that even being said, the Titans' offense just has looked so good that I definitely think that the Titans would beat the Colts. I thought the Titans would beat the Colts a few weeks back on Thursday Night Football, and I still think they will now. It'll be a close game, a closer game than I predicted a few weeks back, but it'll be a 30-28 win by the Titans, and they will continue fighting for this division. Next up, we have the Vikings going up against the Panthers. The Vikings had a pretty bad game defensively last week against the Cowboys. They played pretty badly, especially defensively. Kirk Cousins, though, went out there and looked really well, so definitely a bright spot. He definitely had one of his best games that we've seen these past couple of weeks. Meanwhile, the Panthers, they definitely went out there. I'm pretty sure that they're going to get Teddy Bridgewater back in this game. Christian McCaffrey's doubtful, though, so that's not likely. The Panthers, though, I definitely think that they played really well. They got a nice 20-0 blowout against the Lions. Their defense, which hasn't necessarily been playing great this season, really showed up last week a lot, and I think they got a nice win. I think they'll continue this week. The Vikings, like I said, their main part of their team that worked last week was their offense, and they're going up against a team that's defense has showed up, and I think they get a loss here. The Panthers get a nice win, 27-23. Could go the other way, definitely, but I definitely think the Panthers bump it up. I think they'll be like 5-6. Who knows? Next up, we have Jaguars versus Brown. The Jaguars have now starting Mike Glennon after Jake Luton got benched after a terrible 27-3 loss against the Steelers. No one expected them to win that game, but that was still harsh. The Browns, on the other hand, went out there and played really well. They got a nice blowout win. Not blowout score-wise, but like the way their defense played, they kind of just completely destroyed the Eagles. It was only a 5-point game, but really a lot of it had to do with the fact that, the Browns' offense hasn't necessarily been insane. So I don't think the Browns will completely blow out the Jaguars, but I think their defense will do enough to keep them in it. And 23-10, nice win against the Browns. Nice win for the Browns. The Jaguars, fall to 1-10, and yeah, they might actually. I know the Jets got eliminated from the playoffs. They might actually be next. Next up, Bengals against the Giants. This is going to be a much better game than people are talking about it being. People are saying that it's going to be a blow in the Giants' favor. A lot of people are just saying, "Oh, there's no way that the Giants lose." Brandon Allen isn't a terrible quarterback. Definitely, he's better than Ryan Finley. He's no Joe Burrow. And they're giving him T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, who hasn't had the best year, but still, the Bengals offense definitely still has weapons. Definitely still is capable of making some plays. Look at that defense. Hasn't necessarily been terrible all year. You look at the Giants. They had a pretty good game last week, and now all of a sudden people are freaking out. They had a 10-point win against the Eagles, who we've seen are terrible, are playing really badly, have a terrible offensive line, terrible offense in general, and yeah, I think the Giants. I definitely think they've bumped it up a bit. I definitely think the Giants still going to get the win here, but I definitely think it'll be a much closer game than people are expecting. The Bengals, yeah, Brandon Allen's not going to be able to get enough to get them a win. Well, I definitely think it could happen, but the Giants, I definitely think if they win this game, I'm pretty sure that they will be at least tied, if not the number one team in the NFC East. So the Giants making moves. Next up, Patriots versus Cardinals. We've seen the Patriots, they're 4-6, but we've seen that they can hang in with any team. They can keep it close with just about anybody. I mean, they beat the Ravens, and they lost to the Texans. And we've kind of seen what works. They just need to run the ball and let their defense carry them. And last week, they threw the ball a lot, and their defense didn't play very well. So, yeah. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they lost last week to the Seahawks, but they did still look pretty. It was only a 7-point loss to one of the better teams in the league. I definitely think they'll bounce back this week. I think this is a game that the Cardinals will win 34-28. The Patriots, though, I would not be surprised to see an upset win here. Definitely wouldn't be surprised to see the Patriots, play really well defensively and win by, 7 or 8 points. But yeah, definitely, I think the Cardinals will win as of now. 34-28. Beat down. Next up, Jets versus Dolphins. The Dolphins, rough loss last week against the Broncos. The Broncos kind of went back to what they worked last week, which was last year, which was running the ball and letting defense carry them, and it worked against the Dolphins. The Jets almost got a win against the Chargers. If the punter had just, if the punter had waited one more second to go down, maybe they would have won. But the Dolphins, they're definitely. I was going to say, the Dolphins are definitely playing much better than the Jets are. I think the Dolphins definitely get the win here, 31-21, and they stay in this division race at least for the next couple of weeks. Next up, Falcons up against the Raiders. The Falcons, rough loss last week, 24-9 against the Saints. Meanwhile, the Raiders, yeah, they lost to the Chiefs, but really I would consider it a win, the fact that they were able to go in there and only lose by 4. They kept it close. It was a shootout. It kept it down to the last drive. It was a 35-31 loss against one of the better teams, possibly the best team, depending on who you ask, in the league. I definitely think the Raiders will get the win. Their offenses look so explosive. A 35-24 win by the Raiders, and they kind of bounce back. Next up, we have the Steelers going up against the Ravens. The Ravens, 2 or 3 game losing streak. They're 6-4. Things are kind of collapsing. They're going up against the Steelers. If they lose this game, there's a pretty big chance that the Ravens really will not make the playoffs. They kind of need to win this game, and they really need to go in there, and they need to kind of get a statement win. They need to say, hey, we are going to go in here, and we are going to take this AFC wildcard spot away from you guys. The Ravens were still pretty good. The Steelers, on the other hand, they play the Ravens this week. Next week, they play Washington, though. So the Steelers are kind of on track to go 12-0 if they win this game. And in my opinion, I think they will. Their defense is just so good, and we've seen the Ravens' offense kind of not play too well. And now they're going up against possibly the best defense in the league. I see that trend continuing at 35-24 win by the Steelers to bump up to 11-0. It'll be pretty, the Steelers don't necessarily have a very good, very easy schedule. I think they play Washington, they play Bengals, but other than that, they play the Browns. I think they play, they play some pretty tough teams. I definitely don't think the Steelers will go 16-0, but as of right now, I think they'll go 11-0. Who knows what happens next year? Sorry, next week. I say year instead of week, like every single time. This time we have Broncos against the Saints. The Broncos just got a win, but the Saints, on the other hand, have looked really good all year. Taysom Hill went in there last week and played really well, especially on the ground. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, which is pretty well, especially since, I definitely think that it was hard for a team to game plan against that, seeing as how they're going from a player like Drew Brees, who doesn't necessarily run that much, to a player like Taysom Hill, who can run like a madman. And you're going up against the Broncos. I think the Saints will get a nice win here, a 27-13 win against the Broncos. I think this is kind of no question here. The Saints get the nice win. Next up, Rams against the 49ers. The Rams, their offense has showed up in these past couple of weeks. They beat the Seahawks by 10, and then they went in here, and then they beat the they beat the Buccaneers by 3, and they have looked like a pretty good team. Now they're going against an injury-ridden 49ers team that, in my opinion, I think until they get some people back, which will take until the last couple of weeks, I definitely think that they're probably going to lose this game. So unless some players make a miraculous comeback, which I think is impossible, I definitely think that the 49ers are going to lose this game 33-26. I definitely think they can keep it close here, but the Rams definitely get the win, bump up to, I think, 8-3, and continue their dominance. Next up, Buccaneers against the Chiefs. Sorry about a little bit of silence right there. The Buccaneers, 2 out of the 3 last weeks haven't been very, very good. A terrible loss against the Saints, which they'll probably never get out of their heads, and then another rough loss against the Rams, where they really couldn't get anything done offensively. It was only a 3-point win, but it looked pretty bad whenever you were actually watching the game. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they had a shootout with the Raiders, where they didn't look very. You may say, oh, well, they kept it close with a team like the Raiders. The Raiders looked pretty good in that game. The Chiefs looked like the Chiefs. They played pretty well. And going up against the Buccaneers, I definitely think that the Buccaneers are kind of having a couple off weeks. They can keep it close, but I'm still going to have to hand this one to the Chiefs, who get their 10th win. 38-27, the Buccaneers. Things are looking bad. They're probably not going to win their division, and now they're kind of looking at wild card spots right now. Next up, Packers against the Bears. A few weeks ago, this was looked at as a possibly very, very important playoff game, but right now, not playoff game, but like a game that has a lot of playoff implications. Now it's kind of looked at as, the Bears offense has not played very well. Now that Mitchell Trubisky is going to go in there, things could. We don't know. I don't know who's better, Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. It's so I can't decide. Either way, I definitely think the Packers get the win here. 35-26. I definitely could see the Bears come back and winning this game and getting a statement win here against the Packers. We have seen the Packers defense play badly in some weeks, and this could be one. That's why I'm giving the Bears 26 points. But I do think the Packers are a much better team. I think they bump up to 8-3. If the Bears do manage to win this game, then they will have a leg up in the division race, and they will only be 1 game behind, which would be insane to see. Next up, we have Eagles going against the Seahawks. If you've noticed, I haven't used my lock of the week. That's because it's probably going to be for this game. The Seahawks have just been dominating all season long. Letting Rush cook was a very good idea. Meanwhile, the Eagles have played terribly. They're 3-6-1. They're hanging on desperately to that first place in the NFC East spot. If they do manage to win this game, no matter what happens in the other games, they'd be 4-6-1, and they would 100% be at the top of the NFC East. But if they lose this game, which I think they will, and I think it'll be the lock of the week, I definitely think that they'll probably 100% not be at the number 1 spot. They'll be, I think, depending on how the Giants game goes, I'm pretty sure they'll either be 2nd or 3rd. I think the Seahawks get a nice win here, 14-point win. I hope we recorded this. I did it pretty quickly. Let me know. Do you like it this way, whenever I just kind of go through and I talk pretty quickly, or do you like it when I go in depth into games, which could take a long while? Just let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe here. We post NFL videos every single day of every single week. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in my next video. It was recording. Let's go. I'm actually very, very happy to see this thing right here. No one's going to be seeing this part. If you're seeing this part right here, say apricot,